Welcome to Amphetamines and Ecstasy. My name is Desiree Cochran Norfolk. I am a certified master addiction counselor. I have a master's in addiction counseling. I'm also a certified anger management specialist. In today's lesson, we are going to learn about amphetamine use. I'm going to introduce you to the idea of amphetamines, and then we're going to talk about what are amphetamines. We're going to learn a little bit about ecstasy, which we call MDMA, the history of amphetamines, why people use amphetamines, the damage that it causes to the body, and addiction and dependence to it. And then we look at an outlook for amphetamine users and can the damage be repaired? Many drugs, such as marijuana, heroin, cocaine, they're frequently in the news, and you almost certainly have come across some of the discussion and the debate about them. Well, amphetamines, they tend not to get as much publicity, and it's possible that you may not have even heard about them before. But they're taken by about 750,000 regular users in the United States and about 250,000 people in Great Britain. But these are considerably more occasional users. Amphetamines are a group of human-made drugs known as stimulants, which means that they stimulate or they excite the brain and the body, and they make the person feel kind of unnaturally alert, overreactive, and talkative. Amphetamines, they tend to speed everything up, which is how they get their most common nickname. The nickname is speed. Users also report they get a sense of well-being, confidence, and even euphoria. These feelings are sometimes described as an amphetamine high. This is the unpleasant side of this high, is that low that inevitably is going to follow that high. So when people come down from their amphetamines, they can feel physically and mentally drained and often report feeling depressed. Some experiences in life make us feel extraordinarily happy and triumphant, and some of these amphetamine users report that this drug makes them feel like that. But in their cases, the feeling is not genuine and it's followed by a crash. They also are risking a long lasting damage to their health. So there's three main types of drug groups that people use for non-medicinal reasons. This is going to be the stimulants, the depressants, and the hallucinogens, or some people like to call it the uppers, the downers, and then the all-arounders. So the stimulants, these act on the central nervous system and they increase the brain activity. So this is going to be your cocaine, your crack, amphetamines, nicotine, ecstasy, etc. Then we have the depressants that act on the central nervous system, and it's going to slow down our brain activity. So this is going to be heroin, gas, glue, tranquilizers, alcohol. And then the hallucinogenics. So this is going to be the drug that makes people hear or see things that aren't there. So this is going to be marijuana, LSD, magic mushrooms, and so on. So amphetamines are classified as a Schedule II drug in the United States. So that means that the drug has an accepted medicinal use if it's prescribed by a doctor. It's considered to have high potential for abuse. And if it is abuse, it carries a high risk of physical and psychological dependence. Giving amphetamines to anybody under the age of 18 can result in a sentence of up to 50 years in prison and a fine up to $10,000. So, ecstasy, the type of amphetamine that's most talked about today is MDMA, and this is most commonly known as ecstasy. And although ecstasy is an amphetamine, it's different in several ways from other drugs that we call amphetamines. So, to avoid the confusion, we're going to look at ecstasy separately in the next lesson. So amphetamines were originally developed as a medical treatment for various conditions, although their effectiveness for most of these has since been questioned or in some cases has been disproved. And there's still a few conditions for which amphetamine-based drugs can be legally prescribed, although the majority of the amphetamine use is non-medical and therefore illegal. We're going to explore this in lesson 3. So people who use amphetamines for many different reasons, they may want to stay awake all night studying, they want to party for days, they might want to lose weight. Some people use them because they think that their friends are going to think that they're a chicken if they don't. So in lesson 4, we're going to discuss why people use amphetamines and also consider other ways of dealing with the stresses and the strains of 21st century life. There's also some advice for people who feel that they're being pressured into doing something they really don't want to do, and teaching our clients how to say no. So, one of the biggest mistakes that people make about amphetamines is to think that because they're not as addictive as, let's say, heroin, they're safe. And it is true that there are relatively few deaths from amphetamine overdose, but people can die as a result of using amphetamines. There are a number of health problems that are associated with its use, and that some of them are quite serious. Some users take amphetamines intravenously, so this means that they're going to inject the drug straight into their veins. And people who do this are at a higher risk of serious health problems like skin infections, collapsed veins. And if they share their needles, they're going to risk becoming infected with HIV. So, lesson 5 is going to look at how amphetamines can affect someone's health and their general well being. But depending on where you live, you might be aware of drug treatment centers in your area. You may have problems with amphetamines yourself, or you may know somebody who's having difficulty controlling their use. So, lessons 6 and 7 are going to look at the nature of addiction and dependence and at various ways of helping the person break that dependency. And often when people have a problem with drugs or alcohol, they're unable to see what that problem is very clearly for themselves. This might mean that what they say about a certain drug or particular aspect of drug use is probably less than accurate. So the purpose of this course is to kind of provide that straightforward information about amphetamines and their effects. And hopefully it's going to answer any questions that you might have and clear up some of the myths that there are about amphetamine use. So amphetamines, these are usually sold in the form of powder. Many users are going to take the drug by snorting it, which means sniffing it into their noses. And if you need more information about amphetamines, or if you know maybe one of your clients need help, there are many different organizations out there, and we can feel free to talk about those different organizations in the chat box in the lesson.